Good morning, dear colleagues. Today I'll be speaking on chronic hepatitis B in children, what is new in 2021, and I would not be touching the management part as that will be taken subsequently by Dr. Seema Alam. So I'll be not doing the management part. So to be fair, there is hardly any good quality literature which has come up in pediatric hepatitis B. So I'd be borrowing a lot from adult hepatology literature. So I would start with the natural course, which was our understanding till say maybe 2014-15 when we had made this in one of the review articles we had made this natural course of chronic hepatitis B in children, and then I will subsequently review the literature and see how the natural course has our understanding of natural course has changed over time. So the previous understanding was that most of the children most of the people who get hepatitis B get it through perinatal transmission, and they go into what was called as immunotolerant phase, which used to last from few years to several decades in most of them. This was classically thought to be because of the fetal exposure to maternal HBeAg, which can cross the placenta, and exposure in fetal period was supposed to cause tolerance in these people. After several decades or years, most of them ultimately were supposed to go into a immune active phase, which would last for weeks to years, and then 10 to 15% per year would undergo HBeAg seroconversion, leading to most of them going into HBV inactive carrier, and 10 to 20% going into HBeAg negative chronic active hepatitis, and ultimately to HBsAg clearance. And it was thought that most of the immune active and HBeAg negative chronic hepatitis would ultimately develop cirrhosis and SCC and decompensation. So with this in background, I will now review the literature and try to see how our understanding has changed over last 5 years or so. So the questions are in front of us are immunotolerant children actually tolerant? And if not, can they be offered treatment? Is there a realistic risk of cirrhosis and SCC in pediatric age group in chronic hepatitis B, and how is the progression from one stage to another? Just a brief epidemiology before starting. So classically, endemicity levels of HBsAg was classified as low, low intermediate, high intermediate, and high, and India was in low intermediate somewhere till 2011 and 12. Now this chart shows data from WHO shows that the age-wise prevalence of hepatitis B infection was higher in the children and gradually went down when in adulthood, which suggests that most of the infections that were occurring sometime in 2005 were perinatally transmitted. But some recent data from China in 2019 is showing that after the introduction of routine immunization and HBIG prophylaxis and hepatitis B vaccination in neonates, now the prevalence of HBsAg is lower in children, and it gradually increases with age. So it is around 0.05% or 0.1% at around 1 to 2 years of age, and increases to around 0.45 to 0.6% by 14 to 15 years of age. And at the same time, the HBs antibody positivity rate comes down from around 90% at first 2 years of life to around 56 to 60% by 14 to 15 years of life. And there was an inverse correlation between HBsAg prevalence and HBs antibody positivity rate, suggesting that once the immunization program is in full flow, then there could be role of horizontal transmission also coming into picture. This is prevalence of hepatitis B infection in children, and you can see that India, this is children up to 5 years of age, so India was coming in between 2 to 4%. This was published in 2012, and we can see that by 2017 the prevalence in India has come down to close to 0.7%, so which would have actually been classified as low endemicity zone. So from 2.5 to 0.7% within 5 years there has been reduction in so this is also a modeling study which shows that India has under 5 children in India have a prevalence of 0.9%. This is a ICMR serosurvey data which shows that phase 1 states, that is the states which started hepatitis B vaccination quite early in 2002 to 5, were having much lower rates of chronic hepatitis B infection as compared to phase 2 states, which started somewhere around 2008 or 9. Now, let's try to understand the natural course of pediatric chronic hepatitis B. This is the classical diagram that we have always learned from textbooks, that if the infection is acquired in the first 1 year of life, there is 90% of them develop chronicity, and this has been classically been thought because of the immature neonatal immune system, which fails to clear the virus, and the virus becomes chronic. In contrast, in older children, more than 5 years, and adults, the immune system is well developed and can clear the virus, and most of them do not develop chronicity. This can also be evident by the fact that only up to 2% of pediatric ALF are accounted by hepatitis B, and up to 6% of ACLF are accounted by hepatitis B. This was our data until 2016. There we had 114 patients of chronic hepatitis, 114 patients of HBsAg positivity. Around 4% were acute hepatitis B, and rest 96% were chronic hepatitis B. What we can see from this data is most of the children, when they present to us under 18 years of age, are in what was classically called the immune tolerant phase, which is now called as HBeAg positive chronic infection, and around another 1/3 have were on HBeAg positive hepatitis phase. What is striking in this diagram is that HBeAg negative chronic hepatitis was not there in any patient at this time, but subsequently after 2016 we have seen 3 to 4 patients with HBeAg negative chronic hepatitis, but this is definite that this phase is quite less prevalent in children under 18 years of age and occurs most commonly in adults. Similar data is from other centers, and I'll just picked up this data, recent data from multi-center from the Hepatitis B Research Network pediatric group, where they showed that 36% were HBeAg positive chronic infection, 39% were HBeAg positive chronic hepatitis, and similar to our study, only 3% were HBeAg negative chronic hepatitis, 16% were HBeAg negative chronic infection, and 6% were indeterminate. Now, what they also studied, they used an updated upper limit of normal based on the cutoff of upper limit of normal proposed recently, and they used they reclassified these children based on upper limit of normal of ALT being 26 in males and 22 in females, and they found that previously there 39% of children in HBeAg positive chronic hepatitis group, and that is by using the site specific upper limit of normal, which was 40 IU per liter in most cases. But when they use this 26 cutoff of 26, they could increase the number of HBeAg positive chronic hepatitis in as many as 62%, and the immunotolerant group shrunk from 36% to 12%, that is 1/3 shrinkage. But does decreasing what is the clinical implication? Do we cut down, do we consider the upper limit of normal as 26 or 22, whatever has been proposed recently, and increase the number of children in immunoactive phase or HBeAg positive chronic hepatitis phase? Will it have clinical implications? Can we treat them? Can we have more children eligible for treatment by doing this? So this looks unlikely, because what we have shown in our previous study, where we studied PEG interferon nucleoside analogs, and we found that an ALT cutoff of more than 100 IU per liter predicted HBeAg seroconversion with almost very good sensitivity and specificity. And similar thing was also seen with the Hepatitis B Research Network study published recently in Hepatology, where they showed that children with ALT up to 60 IU per liter did not show any response in either in HBe seroconversion or SBS seroconversion with PEG interferon plus entecavir. So dropping the cutoff of ALT to lower levels may not have clinical or therapeutic implications. Now, the second issue with pediatric chronic hepatitis B is around a fourth of children we will not be able to categorize them into one of these 4 compartments. So these are not watertight compartments, and as we can see, this is most commonly seen with HBeAg negative children, where a good percent in this study, around one third of children had lower DNA but higher ALT, so they cannot be classified in any group. And these were likely the children with HBeAg negative chronic infection who were having possibly recurrent flares and remissions. Similarly, in HBeAg positive group, there was a group of children who had lower DNA with higher ALT, and again they cannot be classified into one of the classical. So what we understand is these are not watertight compartments, and patient can be changing, it's dynamic, and patient can shift from one group to another. Now coming to the other part, that is what was initially thought as immune tolerant chronic hepatitis B, and we have been using the term for a long time. So this Bertoletti group from Singapore, and they have shown that the Th1 HBV specific Th1 cells producing the pro-inflammatory cytokines were similar in immunotolerant as compared to immunoactive group and inactive carriers. So what this can be better understood with this concept diagram which they proposed. That was the initial proposed mechanism was that HBV specific T cells are lacking in immune tolerance phase, but what they have proposed based on the study which I showed is that what was labeled as immunotolerant phase is actually a non-inflammatory phase, that is high replicative and non-inflammatory phase, where there are abundant HBV specific T cells, almost as comparable to the inflammatory phase, but they are not causing recruitment of inflammatory cells like monocytes, dendritic cells, granulocytes, and cytotoxic T cells. So the cytokine milieu is not very pro-inflammatory in this phase, whereas in the classical HBeAg chronic HBeAg positive chronic hepatitis phase, the cytokine milieu is more of inflammatory, and this is more commonly seen in adults, but also seen in adolescents. Now, what percentage of this HBeAg positive chronic infection will clear the HBeAg over in their childhood? So this prospective study from Mei Wei Chang from Taiwan, they showed that those children with normal ALT and HBeAg positive, when they are followed up for a median period of 20 years, around half of the children will achieve spontaneous HBe seroconversion. And this spontaneous HBe seroconversion was better with genotype B, with lower HBsAg titer and higher anti-HBc titer, that is a stronger immune response will elicit a higher clearance of HBeAg in these children. So is this HBeAg positive chronic infection, is it a harmless phase? So this study again from the same group, that it has shown they took 9 patients with normal ALT with various genotypes, but only 4 of them were in the pediatric age group, and most of them had the minimal or up to grade 2 fibrosis, Ishak's up to grade 2 fibrosis, and they showed that HBV specific T cell response was similar in immunotolerant as compared to immunoactive and HBeAg negative hepatitis phase. More so, HBV DNA integration and clonal hepatocyte proliferation or clonal hepatocyte expansion was similar in immune tolerant group as compared to the immune active group. So that means the process of HCC development starts even in immunotolerant children, immunotolerant patients. Only 4 of these were children actually. So, but definitely in immunotolerant phase, the clonal proliferation, hepatocyte expansion has started, and there is a risk of HCC developing even in this phase. And this has also been corroborated by a recent Gut article in 2017, which showed that untreated immunotolerant patients had higher risk of HCC as compared to treated immunoactive patients. And they showed that there is a around 2.23 times higher risk of SCC and 3 times higher risk of SCC in those with slight elevation of ALT as compared to treated immunoactive phase of patients. However, there was no information on the amount of fibrosis that was present at baseline in these patients. So it could be possible that most of these so-called immunotolerant patients were actually having a significant amount of fibrosis. Even going by the criteria, the REACH score defined from the REVEAL HBV study. Now, if the immunotolerant patients are considered, they are HBeAg positive, so they get 2 points, and they have DNA more than 10 to power 8, so they get 4 points. So they anyways get 6 points, which is so they get points for SCC, and this is independent of the fibrosis. This risk of development of SCC is independent of fibrosis. But what is to be seen that immunotolerant patients will have much higher DNA as compared to the immunoactive, and they have slightly lower risk, but definitely a significant risk of developing an SCC as compared to immunoactive phase. And similar thing is shown in this another study, which showed that DNA between 10 to power 5 to 10 to power 7 has highest risk of development of HCC, and persistent abnormal ALT has highest risk of development of HCC. Now, what about pediatric HCC related to HBV? In the countries which are endemic, which were endemic for hepatitis B, most of the HCC cases are developed on a background of chronic hepatitis B, whereas in the Western world, most of the HCC have developed on the background of metabolic liver disease like tyrosinemia or genetic intrahepatic cholestasis. If we see the median age, we can see that the median age for development of HCC in these children with chronic hepatitis B is around 10 years, and the youngest children are around 6 to 8 years, and the incidence of cirrhosis is around 7.07, that is 0.01 to 0.48 per 100 person years, and the majority of HCC develop in HBeAg negative patient, more than 2/3, and less than 1/3 develop in HBeAg positive in pediatric HCC. And this is also with a higher risk among those with pre-core and basal core promoter variations. What has been contrasting is that Asian children with HBV related HCC cirrhosis was almost universal, whereas in the children from the Western world, HCC developed in HBV even in absence of cirrhosis, background cirrhosis. DNA is usually low in these patients, and genotype B has highest risk of developing HCC in pediatric age group. AST, LT are elevated in up to 50%, AFP is elevated in most, and earlier the spontaneous HBeAg seroconversion, higher the risk of HCC. This was thought to be due to a stronger necroinflammatory process and a longer duration of inflammation. Now, seeing all this risk of HCC developing even in the pediatric age group and even in the immunotolerant phase, this study showed that it was cost effective to treat these patients with they used a Markov model analysis, not actual, and they showed that it was cost effective to treat immunotolerant patients to prevent HCC and cirrhosis. But one thing is clear, that the patients, including children in immunotolerant phase or in immunoactive phase, have high risk of HCC and cirrhosis, and they need treatment. But what is problematic is the currently available treatment are not effective in these patients. So this can be seen from these last 3 studies. The one from the multicentric American study, this is our study, and this is the King's College study. And all the 3 studies have shown that when we take children with ALT up, normal ALT or ALT up to 1.5 or 2 times the normal, and we treat them with PEG interferon with nucleoside analogs, there is hardly any HBeAg seroconversion or hardly any HBsAg seroconversion. Only thing is this nucleoside analogs decreases the HBV DNA in a significant number, but there is no HBe or SBS seroconversion. So in absence of effective treatment, forces us not to treat these patients who actually require therapy if it was available. Now what is interesting is this one study in children which came recently in 2019, where they have shown that this is group 1 and group 2. In group 1, they have treated children younger than 1 year with lamivudine, and in group 2 they have treated children with peg interferon starting at 1 year of age, and they have achieved miraculous rates of HbS-Ag seroconversion. That is, in group 1, if you see, if lamivudine was started in early infancy, say somewhere between 3 months or 6 months of age, they have achieved HbS-Ag seroconversion in as many as 83% of these children by 1 year of age. Similarly, in the group where they treated with peg interferon starting at 1 year of age, because it is not recommended below 1 year of age, and there they showed that 36% of children cleared HbS-Ag by 12 months of age. So if we see the baseline data, what is surprising is normally we expect that in the early infancy there is low inflammation, and hence AST and ALT are likely to be normal. But what was seen in this study was that in infancy these patients had very high ALT up to 357, and even these children at 1 year of age had ALT up to 209. With DNA titers were consistent with the immunotolerant phase, that is around 10 to power 8, and most of them were genotype C and had received half of them had received immunoprophylaxis with hepatitis B immunoglobulin. What is also interesting to note that a significant percentage of them had some degree of inflammation and some degree of fibrosis, which had already set in even in such an early age group. What this study failed to tell us was the denominator. That is, they showed that the 29 children were treated and they had miraculous rates of HbS-Ag seroconversion, but out of how many? This information is lacking. So we don't know what proportion of patients have this pro-inflammatory phase in early infancy, but if they have, they can definitely be treated very well with antivirals or with peg interferon. Long-term follow-up studies, this meta-analysis has shown that annual rates of HbS-Ag loss, spontaneous HbS-Ag loss without treatment is around 1% based on this meta-analysis, and HbE-Ag loss is around 6% per year in children. We also know that HbE-Ag clearance is higher in those with elevated ALT and higher in those with horizontal transmission. Now a few points on HbE-Ag negative chronic infection. A lot of information on this has come from these gastroenterology papers from Dr. Manoj and Dr. Sareen, which have shown that again adult hepatology data, not pediatric, but what they have shown is that for HbE-Ag negative chronic infection did not mean inactive carrier. That is, they still had a risk of inflammation, risk of fibrosis, risk of seroreversion, and risk of developing cirrhosis and SCC. And they showed that there around 5% patients per year had ALT rise with DNA rise. So that is, they were going towards that HbE-Ag negative chronic hepatitis phase. They did sequential histopathology and showed that 79% had rise in HAI score over next 5 years, and they also showed that there was median increase in fibrosis score over the next 5 years. What that showed that the pre-core mutants, the males and those with age more than 30 years were at higher risk of going in increasing the inflammation, that is going into chronic hepatitis, HbE-Ag negative chronic hepatitis phase. Around 10% can develop seroreversion, and risk of cirrhosis and SCC in this study, again gastroenterology paper 2009, showed that in 13 years around 0.9% developed cirrhosis and 0.1% developed SCC. There is hardly any literature on non-invasive marker of fibrosis in children with chronic hepatitis B. This study showed that GGT and pre-albumin were important, and this other study showed that shear wave elastography did not have good correlation with fibrosis in children with hepatitis B. Rather, APRI score and MCP1 were important. So after reviewing this data, let's try and describe the natural course of hepatitis B infection in children. So most of the children will get this infection by perinatal transmission. They will enter into what is known as HbE-Ag positive chronic infection, that is a high risk and a low inflammatory phase. what is possible is a few of these children go through a transient pro-inflammatory stage in infancy. We don't know what percentage of them, and then they go into this high replicative and low inflammatory phase sometime after infancy. Then there is a small question of whether a few of these children develop occult B infection. Then 70 to 90% will ultimately go into HBeAg positive chronic hepatitis. Then they will clear HBeAg and become HBeAg negative chronic infection. Now what is this? These are not linear stages. So it's not that children with HBeAg positive chronic hepatitis will only go into this phase. Even children from this chronic infection phase can also go into HBeAg negative chronic infection phase. The rate is 2.2% per year for this for immunotolerant children, and 6 to 7.5% per year for immunoactive children. So these are not hard and fast watertight compartments, and these are not linear compartments. You can go from one stage to another. Then HBeAg negative chronic hepatitis. So those children who are HBeAg negative chronic infection, around, this is not children, this is actually adult literature, that 4.3% per year will develop chronic hepatitis, and also a few of these HBeAg reactive chronic hepatitis, 10 to 20% of these children can go into HBeAg negative chronic hepatitis. HBs seroconversion can occur in any phase, right from this immunotolerant to immunoactive to HBeAg negative chronic infection. What is now clear, that it's not that step by step cirrhosis can develop in all the 4 phases. Yes, it is more whenever there is ALT elevation, that is this phase and this phase, but cirrhosis can occur in all the phases, ultimately leading to HCC, or these stages directly can also develop HCC without going into cirrhosis, like what we have described, that HBV DNA integration and clonal proliferation was seen in immunotolerant children. Although the highest risk of SCC is in this group, HBeAg negative chronic hepatitis, and second is in this group, HBeAg reactive chronic hepatitis group. So to conclude, the natural course of hepatitis B in children is a very dynamic process. They do not follow watertight compartment. It's a complex process, and there is non-linear progression. We can also conclude that there is possibly a small therapeutic window here in perinatal transmission before the child goes into high replicative low inflammatory phase. We don't know in what percentage, but it may be worth evaluating if you can evaluate these young infants, where if we treat, we can achieve high rates of HBsAg seroconversion. Thank you, sir.